Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Rundown. I'm Sunny Galt. I'm a messenger with United Network News, and our mission is to bring you the real news throughout the week. And that's saying a lot because we produce a lot of content throughout the week that includes reports that are coming in from our awesome field messengers, which I'm going to tell you more about in just a bit. We have in-depth news coverage that the team and I work on for you guys. So we go beyond the headlines to tell you what's really going on there and provide you with some sound bites of what people are talking about online. We talk about the restoration of our planet, and we have updates from the Global Intelligence Agency that shines some light on what's really happening here in this ultimate battle of good versus evil. And it's rough out there, right? I've been watching some of your comments on our app, which if you haven't signed up for our app, I encourage you guys to do so because there's some really good conversations happening out there. And sometimes it's just nice to know that you're not alone. And this week, actually right before I went to bed last night, I was feeling all achy and I'm like, what's going on? So I hop on the UNN app and you guys are telling me you're feeling the same thing. And I'm like, oh, thank goodness, it's not just me. So yeah, the struggle is real, right? And there's a lot of weirdness out there, and you may find that the people that you love, friends and family, are acting a little weird, and that's all for good reason. So if you want a place that explains all of that, you have found the right place. We really are a great community of people that are shining light on what's really happening on our planet right now. If you want more information about who we are and the cool things that we're working on, you can visit our website at unitednetwork.earth. This podcast that perhaps you just stumbled across, or maybe you've been listening for a long time. Either way, welcome. This is a week in review show. So I go through the headlines of stories that we've released throughout the week, and I give you the rundown of what those stories are about. And if you're brand new to UNN, this is a great way just to learn a little bit more about what we do. Or if you want to share UNN with somebody else, we encourage you guys just to take the link for this episode and share it because it's on all the podcasting platforms. And there's also a version on our website. So take the link and share it because when we put out content for the first week, it is available exclusively to our paying members on our site. And then after that, we do release our content on YouTube and Rumble, but you can't always control what the socials are going to do, right? They kind of have a mind of their own. We've seen that over the years. They love to shadow ban us and randomly mark things as private when we released it as public. And it is getting better, but if you want instant access to everything we release, then head on over to our website and consider becoming a member. With any content that you guys are listening to or watching online, it is so important for you to think critically about the information being presented and to ask questions about that information. Doesn't matter if it's coming from UNN or another source. We have to get out of this mindset of just consuming information and assuming it's valid and it's truth, because there's a lot of misinformation out there, a lot of disinformation out there, which means it's intentional, and you really have to rely on your own discernment, and that starts with asking questions. We need to make the hashtag question everything go viral in a very positive way, because that's what we have to start doing. We have to question everything and see if it passes a smell test, because there's a lot of stuff out there that doesn't. But when you do figure stuff out, share it with other people. You will be amazed when you start to do that. Now, that doesn't mean that you get in people's faces and, really hound them about this kind of stuff, because that doesn't work. But I have found, even with my toughest critics, which quite frankly are my immediate family and extended family, that sometimes you're just leaving little breadcrumbs. And I feel like I've been doing this a lot lately. As you guys know, I'm traveling right now, and we do this every summer, but my girls and I, because they have a more flexible schedule, we go back to Ohio and spend the summer with our family, because both sides of the family are in the same area of Ohio. And so we've been here for a while, and let me tell you, I have been tested in so many different ways because I'm in a completely different environment where everyone believes that mainstream media is telling the truth and pharmaceutical companies are there for your benefit. And yeah, you just name it. You just name it. I'm in that zone right now. Sometimes it takes a lot of control to be able to be in those moments and share things, but share them in love. And again, it's not coming at them, really hard with the information. It's just, I like to do it like I'm presenting questions. Oh, that's interesting that you feel that way. Why do you feel that way? Or where did you get that information? Where does that come from? Because I find that a lot of people are assuming things, or they don't even realize that they are literally just repeating whatever Mockingbird media is telling them. And when you bring it up in a loving way, and there's obviously good ways to do that and not so good ways to do that, you can really get pretty far. I've noticed that with my family, and after years of just leaving little breadcrumbs, they're starting to pick up on stuff, guys. It really is happening. So again, do it in love, and you will know, again, this comes back to your discernment. You will know good times versus bad times to do this, but listen to that little voice within you, because this is all how we're going to change the world. This is how we learn and grow, and it's not going to be forceful. People always have free will. That's what Source intended. God created free will, and this is a planet where you test it all out, right? Okay, so that is my spiel. I'm going to step off my soapbox right now. Let's get to the news. Here's the rundown of stories you may have missed this week on UNN. Okay, let's kick things off with the stories that are coming straight from our field messengers. So let me brag on our field messengers a little bit, because they're really doing some incredible things. And it's been really interesting over the years to see how, creating this system where you report the news, you're not reliant on some talking head or some correspondent to visit your city and tell you what's happening in your community. No, you are taking the initiative. You are not waiting for someone to come save you. You are saving yourself, and you're helping other people in the process. And that is what our field messengers are all about. And you don't have to have any experience to do this. I spent years going to journalism school and practically having to unlearn most of the stuff that I learned. But one of the good things that I learned in journalism school is how to tell a good story. And I've had to strip some of that information away because they're very manipulative about how they tell stories. And so I have had to figure things out and realize that, a lot of this was just, dressing things up in a certain way. And like I said earlier, getting people to believe whatever you say. And that's not what our field messengers do. Our field messengers are reporting on what's going on in their communities because they care and because they love their communities. You should have a sense of pride. We talked about this a little bit last week because it was the 4th of July here in the United States. And I said, all countries should feel proud of where they're from. Doesn't matter where you're from. Every place is unique, and the people there are probably amazing, if they weren't being mind controlled and manipulated constantly. And you have beautiful traditions. Why not share that with the world? This is about us getting to know each other a little bit better and forget all the stupid stereotypes and, oh, this happens in this country and this happens in that country. I can tell you that the United States is probably very, very different than what most countries think it is. And I think we witnessed this a little bit with the World Cup recently, because people came to the U.S. and they're like, oh, this is actually kind of a cool place. I've heard that they're just sloths, that don't do anything and, think that they're the best and whatever. And for the most part, while we have a lot of pride in who we are, that's not necessarily a bad thing. You should want wherever you live, your community, your state, your country to be the best it can possibly be. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to bring other people down. in order to make that happen. But anyway, that's what our field messengers do. They show us the beauty, sometimes the struggles of what's going on in their community, because we're all here to restore the planet, and we're doing that in various ways. So if you want, again, more information about becoming a field messenger, we have a brand new section on our website about field messengers. You can just go, it's in the main navigation for our website, and we've got a Q&A there. We've got training videos for you guys. We have a weekly live Zoom call that we do where I usually talk about how you can improve your stories, and I answer questions, and you'll get to meet some of the other field messengers that are located all around the world. It's just really cool. So check that out if you're interested. So here are some of the stories from our field messengers this week. Kicking things off in Trinidad with Sophia. So she did this beautiful story that we called Feathered Friends. And it's about the various bird species in Trinidad, including parrots, and how she visited this place where they were rehabilitating and releasing parrots back into the wild, really trying to ensure their survival because they are native to the area, and doing it in a very unique way, really trying to preserve how they naturally interact with each other, other parrots and other birds, right? And, giving them the proper food to eat. They were saying that really it's important that they eat fruits and vegetables. Seeds are actually just a dessert for birds. So you don't want to just give them seeds, right? And there's a lot of fantastic bird noises in this video. So if you just want to feel like you're in a bird haven for a little bit, maybe you should check it out. All right, Emma out of Spain tells us about the Canary Islands. So she's from Fuerteventura, which is one of 7 islands in the Canary Islands. And she kind of gives us a glimpse of what it's like to live there, because she needed to travel to one of their main islands in order to get her passport renewed. And that, she said, is pretty much an all-day event. And she also said something that was interesting. She said that citizens of the Canary Islands have 75%, they get a 75% discount on flights if they're going between the islands. And I thought that was kind of interesting. And let's see, the place she visited, let me see if I can get this name right, Gran Canaria, is where their capital is. And she said about 2 million people live there. Oh, actually, I think it's 2 million people throughout the Canary Islands live there, but they get 14 million tourists each year. So this is a heavy spot for tourism, right? But, we're usually getting reports from Emma about all the cool things to see and do in Fuerteventura, but this was a little bit different. It was kind of, okay, you live there. This is one of the things that you'll experience, if you have to travel between the islands. I thought it was really interesting. Ichiro out of Japan talks about pesticide use in the sugarcane fields of Miyako Island in Okinawa, Japan. It is contaminating the groundwater there. It is harming wildlife, including bees, and contributing to rising developmental disabilities. And this is obviously a sad issue. This isn't the only place that this is happening, right? But there are some very deep issues here. There are corrupt systems that are exploiting Japan's land and the people of Japan. And it's heartbreaking what's happening. He said that developmental disorders of children have actually doubled in the past decade, and that there's major collusion with the government. So we don't do these stories to make you guys feel sad. It is more about empowering you so you know what's happening in these communities so we can change things, because our world is changing, and it's changing very fast. And in the very near future, it is going to be go time for us to start physically taking control of this and making changes. And so you have to know what's going on in these communities in order to make the changes, right? And that's what these stories are all about. Veronica out of Norway. Oh, this was a beautiful update. So we've done a story with Veronica before about a mini farm that she has started on her property. And this was an update on her mini farm because in the spring, as you guys know, spring is a time of birthing, especially on farms, but really in life in general. That's our true new year. Don't get me started on that. That's a whole other can of worms there. But what was beautiful about Veronica's story is I just love seeing animals. Honestly, you guys, my next property that I own, because I would love to move and have a completely different way of life, still have access to all the technology that I have now because I need to communicate with you guys. But my way of life would change dramatically if I had the funding to be able to do that. And one of the things that I really want to do is to return to a more natural way of life. For years, I've wanted to do more homesteading. I've wanted to be around animals. And so this is probably why I just really resonated with Veronica's report, because she's growing her own little mini farm, and that's kind of how you start, right? You don't have to start super big. In fact, we're kind of doing away with the big stuff. Who needs, big farms? And, usually when that happens is when the corruption comes in. Doesn't matter if you're talking about farms or government or pharmaceutical companies, whatever. The bigger it gets, the more corrupt it usually gets. So we're really going back to a way of life where we're serving our own communities and we're not trying to feed the whole planet with a couple of Monsanto farms, right? Totally different way of life. And so her backyard is exactly what I want. She was showing us these playful goats. They have egg-laying hens, beautiful little rabbits that were born in the spring. And she even helped deliver some of this, I think, with the goats. She said she was a midwife, which I thought was really cute, for some of these births. She says she has 54 animals now on the farm, not including the bees, because obviously that would add a lot to the population. And another thing she said that I thought was really interesting, that her thoughts of meat were changing. And I think we're going to see more and more of that. Not, I don't want to get into a big debate about should you eat meat, should you not eat meat, because we know that our food supply is not what it should be. The supply isn't there, but also just the quality of the food is not what it should be. But I do think that we are getting to a point in the near future where a lot of people are going to be questioning everything you consume. And is eating meat part of a diet that you want to have? I think the closer we get with nature and bonding with animals, I think our perspective is going to change a little bit. We'll see. All right, Amy out of New Jersey talks about a unique way in her area where they are managing overgrown vegetation. So in New Jersey, they brought in some goats to control invasive plants. And this is all about using natural solutions to overcome an issue, because the area where these invasive plants were, it wasn't very easy to get to. And they had all these plants that had come in and kind of taken over the area. And they brought in these, I think she called them retired goats. So it could have been former pets or, goats that were used in various ways. They basically got a second life and an opportunity to do some real good in the community. And the program so far has been very successful. I think she even called them natural landscapers, which I thought was really cute as well. And the community, they basically set out these fresh pails of water for the goats, and then they just let the goats do what the goats do, and it is working really well. All right, Mazi out of Nigeria reminds us how communities are starting to go back to a more natural way of living, specifically by the medicine that they are creating. And they're turning back the hands of time in a sense, right? And in this case, he was talking about natural bush herbs and really going back to traditional remedies that are helping his community treat infections, simple things like upset stomachs and, very cultural things as well. So they're, really bringing back things that their ancestors have used for years that we kind of got away from because people are finding that when they go to the hospitals, well, they're not really getting solutions anymore, right? But he shows us how he was using cassava as an example and how they were taking the stems and the leaves, everything, and cooking it, I think he said, for about 45 minutes. And on its own, without adding anything else to it, you can drink it for a couple different, I think he said a couple weeks, and it's overcoming all of these remedies. So it's just another reminder of how nature provides so many of our solutions, and they can't patent nature, which is why the large pharmaceutical companies don't want you to know about these remedies, right? Because they can't make money off of it. But, sometimes the way we have done things in the past is actually the best way to do them moving forward. And it's like, the veil is being lifted, right? This is all just kind of coming back to us. This is information that we always knew. We're just remembering once again. Emma does another story for us. Again, she's out of Spain, and she takes us to a yoga yurt. So you guys know what a yurt is. You've probably seen it before. This video tells you all about it. But this one has maybe a little bit more of an advanced circular design because it isn't a temporary yurt, but it's a beautiful, peaceful space where she went to do some yoga, some mindfulness, relaxation. It's a great way to feel a little bit closer to nature, but it's basically just one big circular tent. And one thing that she said that I thought was really interesting is a reason that some people do this in Spain, in her area, is because if a structure isn't permanent, you pay a lot less in taxes than a permanent structure. So I don't know, might be something, maybe that's a little nugget of wisdom that you guys can use moving forward to avoid some of the crazy government issues that we're still dealing with. Diane out of Uganda interviews the city commissioner, the deputy city commissioner for Jinja City, and that is in eastern Uganda, just to learn a little bit more about his role with the community. And I thought this was really interesting. It is an appointed position, and this person does represent the president of Uganda. He says their position is all about ensuring security, and security for them means a wide variety of things. There's a lot of different services that fall under that. They also supervise various activities. Not only do they monitor government and non-government organizations, but they're there to supervise the city in various ways. And he says they even serve as mediators to help resolve issues more quickly. Now, we know moving forward in the very near future, we will not have governments the same way we have them today because all governments were created to control people under the guise of helping them. And the idea is to control you in every way possible. They would love to have a complete technocratic type of society where probably some crazy AI controls everything. But that is not happening in our reality. And a lot of us are here right now to ensure that that doesn't happen and to help humanity create a new and brighter future for ourselves. So we know roles like this city commissioner probably are going to change. Probably won't be reporting to a president, but we're still going to need to have some ways of dealing with things in our communities, right? So it's important to kind of know how things are set up. And that was my takeaway from this story. Really appreciated it. Thank you, Diane, for telling us a little bit more about how Uganda is run. All right, Elke from Australia tells us about bay laurel and the leaves of bay laurel and how it can be an amazing addition to your kitchen. There's a lot of health benefits that come from basically preparing bay laurel leaves. It can help you with cleansing of the body and healing for various things. And she shows us how she makes a detox drink with the leaves of bay laurel. And I also thought it was interesting. So she said in the past, people have used bay laurel leaves in pillows. So actually put them in pillows to absorb negative energies during sleep. Those of you who use essential oils know that you can buy an essential oil for bay laurel and use it that way. Maybe you don't have to crush up the leaves and put them in your pillow anymore. Just put some in a diffuser or rub some on your forehead or your wrists maybe and take care of it that way. Moving on to some of the news stories that the team and I worked on for you guys this week. So this is where we go a little bit deeper in the headlines, include some sound bites from people that are talking about things out there in the world, and try to reveal what's really happening with some of these news stories. And the first one we're going to talk about is the white labeling of furniture. So if you don't already know, many furniture retailers sell the exact same sofas, tables, and other pieces under different names. Now, this is done through a practice called white labeling. While the furniture itself may be identical, prices can vary because some stores include added services like delivery, assembly, warranties, or design support. By comparing product photos, dimensions, materials, and specifications, shoppers can often identify matching items across retailers and make more informed buying decisions. Here's an example of how this works.
So here we've got the Claudia woven chair. It is $749 at Urban Outfitters. But then over at a retailer called Scout and Nimble, you've got the Gia chair for $505. That's a huge jump. There's about $250 from shopping with Urban Outfitters. But you might be thinking, is this the exact same chair? Yes, this is a white labeled chair. It is the exact same chair. Dimensions are the same. They might be photographed differently. They have been renamed to make it look like it's an exclusive product to Urban Outfitters, but it's the exact same product for $250 cheaper on Scout and Nimble.
So this isn't always a bad thing. Just wanted to throw this caveat in there because you may be getting other services, but you still need to be mindful of the game so you can be a smarter shopper. Littering may seem like a small problem, but millions of discarded bottles, wrappers, and other items create major environmental, economic, and public health challenges. Governments spend billions each year on cleanup, while many cities are increasing fines, expanding enforcement, and even testing AI systems to catch littering.
Did you know you now have to pay 2,000 yen for throwing trash on the streets of Japan? This is Shibuya, a city in Tokyo notorious for littering, and every year it's getting worse. That's why Shibuya Ward has finally started enforcing littering fines starting this month. Anyone caught littering can now be fined 2,000 yen on the spot, and to really enforce this rule, up to 60 patrol officers wearing red vests are now deployed every day patrolling 24 hours. And once they witness you litter, there's no going back. The 2,000 yen fine still applies even if you pick it up afterward.
Now, at the same time, many communities are finding that combining education, better waste collection, and more convenient trash bins is often more effective than relying on penalties alone to keep public spaces clean. Well, speaking of Japan, they have raised visa fees for travelers from countries that require visas, and this has happened for the first time in nearly 5 decades, while visitors from visa-exempt countries, including the U.S., remain unaffected. The increase is part of a broader effort to tighten immigration oversight, with additional fee hikes planned for residency applications, renewals, and permanent residency.
The cost of a single entry visa will increase 5-fold from 3,000 yen to 15,000 yen. A multiple entry visa, meanwhile, will rise from 6,000 yen to 30,000 yen. Among the groups expected to be hit hard by the price increases are tourists from China. Chinese nationals are among those required to obtain a visa to enter Japan. But even travelers who enjoy visa-free access to Japan can expect to pay more. The international departure tax will triple from 1,000 yen to 3,000 yen. The moves are aimed at tackling inflation and the depreciation of the yen, which is at a historic 40-year low.
While the government says the added revenue will improve services for foreign residents and strengthen immigration management, Critics argue the higher costs could discourage skilled workers, students, and long-term residents from choosing Japan. Sustainable aviation fuel, also known as SAF, is being promoted as a way to reduce the environmental impact of air travel by replacing petroleum-based jet fuel with fuel made from renewable materials such as used cooking oil and agricultural waste. Now, while SAF can significantly lower life cycle emissions and works with existing aircraft, its overall benefits depend on how the fuel is produced, sourced, and distributed.
Airlines promised they'd go green. The reality, it's not going so well. Back in 2019, United Airlines made a big deal about a company called World Energy. It was supposed to be the future of aviation, clean fuel made from used cooking oil and waste, called Sustainable Aviation Fuel, or SAF. Fast forward to today, that partnership is dead. The plant that was meant to be making sustainable aviation fuel stopped operating in April. Here's the kicker. This isn't just one company's problem. Reuters dug into the numbers and found out of 165 announced green fuel projects in the last 12 years, only 36 have actually happened. And even if every single pending project worked out perfectly, it would still only hit 10% of what the industry needs to reach its climate goals by 2050.
Critics also point to challenges, including high costs, limited supply, potential environmental trade-offs, and the controversial book and claim system that she was just talking about, which allows those airlines to receive emissions credits even when their own flights are not using SAF directly. Truck drivers play a vital role in keeping goods moving across North America, but many say they are underpaid, denied wages for time spent waiting or performing required tasks, and pressured to meet unrealistic schedules. Recent investigations in the United States and Canada have highlighted concerns about wage theft, unpaid overtime, worker misclassification, and safety violations, with similar issues reported around the world.
60 Minutes spoke with 7 drivers who told us Serbia-based managers routinely skimmed hundreds to thousands of dollars off their pay in excessive fees for their lease, insurance, and repairs. The class action lawsuit calls it a scheme to defraud drivers.
I was coming home with negative amounts on my check.
Negative money?
Negative, yeah, it was in the red. I was doing around 600 to 800 miles a day with that company.
And you come home
with zero.
Industry experts say improving pay, working conditions, and labor protections will be essential to addressing growing driver shortages and making the profession more sustainable. As collectibles such as artwork, trading cards, luxury watches, and sneakers continue to soar in value, they are attracting not only passionate collectors, but also criminals. Experts say the subjective pricing and private nature of some high-value sales can make collectibles attractive for money laundering, while rising prices have also fueled theft and organized resale schemes.
Have you ever been searching eBay and you come across an item that you know just doesn't sit right with you? It could be a Pokemon card, could be a video game, could be a coin, could be a comic book, could be an antique, could be anything, but it's of a collectible nature. And you look on eBay and you see, every other one of those items sold for $1,000. This one is showing as a completed sale at $3,000. So I'm supposed to believe that this item, where up until this point was only selling for $1,000, now all of a sudden it's selling for $3,000. So in this case, you may want to scrutinize that transaction, because this is how money launderers operate in the antiques and collectibles trade.
I always wondered how they could sell like a piece of moldy bread that looks like Jesus. How does that work? How does that go for millions of dollars? Maybe this is why. As the market grows, collectors are increasingly balancing the excitement of owning rare items with the risks that come from their growing financial value. A pilot project in western Switzerland is testing whether solar panels installed between active railway tracks can generate clean energy, so-called clean energy, right? Because we know there's issues with that, without disrupting train operations. The removable panels are designed to withstand vibration, weather, and debris while making use of existing infrastructure instead of requiring new land for solar farms.
Yep, they are solar panels between the tracks of a railway line. A Swiss startup has installed them on a 100-meter stretch to test whether solar power and train traffic can exist side by side, making use of the space that's already there. The electricity is fed into the local power grid. It's estimated it will cover the needs of 4 households. If applied to the entire Swiss rail network, the energy provided could amount to up to 2% of the country's electricity needs. The company behind the panels says they are quickly installed and removed if the tracks need maintenance, and that they can be kept clean with brushes placed at the rear of passing trains. This is just one of several ideas combining solar with existing infrastructure like highways or parking lots.
Although the 3-year trial is still in its early stages, initial results have been encouraging, and the project is already drawing interest from other countries exploring similar renewable energy solutions. A growing number of UK taxpayers are paying more tax even without official tax rate increases because many tax allowances and income thresholds have been frozen while wages and inflation have continued to rise. This phenomenon, known as fiscal drag, gradually pushes more people into higher tax brackets and reduces the real value of tax reliefs over time.
The government didn't raise income tax. They didn't need to. They just left the lines where they were and waited for your salary to catch up. HMRC collected 87.3 billion in April 2026 alone. 6.3 billion more than the same time last year. And the official explanation was frozen thresholds. They're not raising rates. They're just leaving the lines where they are while salaries go past them.
Tax experts warn that the long-running freezes are making financial planning more difficult for families and pensioners, prompting calls for allowances and thresholds to be regularly adjusted for inflation. And finally, Kuwait has revoked the citizenship of more than 71,000 people since mid-2024 as part of a government campaign it says is aimed at addressing fraud, strengthening national identity, and improving security. The policy has left many people and their families without access to citizenship rights, healthcare, employment, pensions, and other public services.
What we found out that the largest people who've been hit with revocation of their citizenship were people who gained their citizenship legally. And these people can be divided into 3 different categories. The first one are the wives of Kuwaitis. These are foreign wives who got married into Kuwaiti citizens. They gave up their citizenship in order to gain a Kuwaiti citizenship. The second category are called the people who gain this citizenship because they have something to contribute to the nation. The people who have talents, the people who have something that they can contribute. The third category are the sons of female Kuwaitis who are married to non-Kuwaitis and they got divorced from that foreigner father or foreigner parent, and then their sons are allowed to get the citizenship through specific path in the past.
So several groups are impacted by this, and human rights organizations have raised concerns about limited legal protections, lack of transparency, and the potential use of citizenship revocations to silence political dissent. So this is the time where we would normally play some sound bites from the Global Intelligence Agency report. Kim was not able to put out a new report. I am recording this a little bit early than I normally do, about, less than 24 hours earlier than I normally do. But as of the time of this recording, she has not put out a new report yet. So I thought what I would do is review some stuff that she is posting on our app. So I mentioned this last week, and I think this is a great addition, and it appears that Kim is even having a little bit of fun with this. But as you know, we are releasing fewer GIA reports, but the reports that Kim is releasing are definitely packed with information, and they're longer. So whereas before we were releasing multiple reports a week, now it's about a week to 10 days before a new report comes out. And I know that's been a struggle for some people because it's hard to know what's really going on out there, right? We talk about discernment a lot, but a lot of us just really want to know from Kim what the latest is because we want the deep state gone or severely removed in some fashion where they have no control over us anymore so we can rebuild our planet. And we kind of want to know what's going on, right? So we have found what seems to be working really well, and we would love your guys' feedback on this. But on our app, so if you go to unitednetwork.earth, you can learn more about our app and you can become a member. And we do have a free trial if you want to check this out, but we have chat rooms on our app. And we now have a chat that's called GIA Announcements and Updates. And Kim is posting in here not only when a new GIA report is released, but she is posting regular updates and she's answering people's questions to the most recent GIA report. So a couple things I want to clarify here, and I mentioned it in last week's episode, but just as a reminder. When an episode comes out, it obviously, a week later, but it goes out on the socials, right? It goes out on YouTube and Rumble about a week later. If you're trying to communicate with Kim and ask Kim questions, if you're using a third-party site, she is not going to see your question. It would be too difficult for her to comb all these sites and, there'd be a lot of people asking the same questions. So what we're trying to do is condense this so it's easier for her to get the information to you guys and also answer some of the questions that you have. And our answer to that is when a video is released through our website, we have a video section where you can just watch the video, but we also have a chat section. The chat section under the video, when a new video comes out, it'll have a section in the chat room. In that section, that's where you ask your questions, not just under the video in the video section. You've got to go to the chat room where she's posted the video, and that's where you ask your questions. And you can do that for that video until a new video is posted. And I saw someone on the app recently that said, I don't think that's right. I think she should just, answer all questions. That's just not feasible, guys. I mean, let's be real. She's extremely busy and she's trying to give us as much information as possible, but we have to be able to control this and manage this in some way for her. And this is what we've come up with. So that's how you ask questions. And you can only ask questions on the most recent episode or video. Once the next video is posted, you can still ask questions, but Kim is not going to be answering them, okay? So that's how you ask Kim questions. The other thing that she's doing is in that same chat room, she is posting little updates in between reports. So this has been kind of fun. Some of the stuff that she's talked about in other reports like industrial cities and things like that, she is sometimes posting photos to give you a clear idea of what an industrial city actually looks like. On the 4th of July, she made a post to talk really about what the 4th of July has been about historically, specifically for her, which was a day where a lot of money would be doled out. She hasn't done that in many, many years, but traditionally that's how she knew the 4th of July to be. And let's see, what are some other things? She was talking on the 7th about the Pentagon hiring black magic workers for astrological events. On the 9th, she said, today is going to be a great day of change and the deep state isn't taking it so well. And then she goes into a little bit of an explanation why and some really crazy places that they're meeting right now, including going to what she calls a machine world that looks like a white void. And they're just sitting there waiting for instructions. Oh gosh, you guys. Does this not sound like it's straight out of the Matrix? Do you remember that white room in the Matrix, which was like the motherboard, I think they said, and this is where everything happens? This is exactly what they're doing. It's insane. So anyway, She's having some fun in there. She's answering your questions. In fact, she has devoted at least 3 hours a week. It's in her calendar where she goes in there, posts information, and answers questions. So take advantage of that. Again, it's exclusively through our app. If you're posting questions elsewhere besides the United Network chat on our app, which you can also access through the website, it's all through our membership, right? Then she's not going to see it. So I just wanted to make that distinction. And hopefully in the next day or two, because I think in one of these posts she said she's going to try to get out a report on Friday or Saturday. As I'm recording this, it's early Saturday morning. And like I said, I am recording this a little bit earlier than I normally do because I've got some things to do. We're doing some family events later today, and I wasn't going to have time. But whenever she releases a report, you know I'm going to give you the updates on the next rundown episode. And that is what we have for you guys today. Again, if you want more information about us, visit our website, unitednetwork.earth. Consider becoming a member. Of course, we appreciate you guys. Hang in there. I know from day to day, it's like, oh my gosh, what are they doing? The frequencies and things like that. But we are at the end here, and we have a very, very positive future without those maniacal, crazy people trying to run it for us. This is The Rundown, and I'm Sunny Galt for United Network News, signing off.